Good morning, everyone. All right, we're gonna give it another minute to let everyone come into this session. For those that were here at the last one at 10 o'clock, welcome back. Good to see you. All right. And we're still filtering in. Excellent. This is great. Fantastic turnout at 10 o'clock. Actually at the peak, we had about 128 attendees over here at our 10 o'clock session. Mostly stayed around about 125, 126. We'll give a minute for folks to come on into this session as they're continuing to do so. And for those that weren't at the 10 a.m. but are here at 11, welcome. Good to have you.
Do you want to go ahead and kick it off, Dave? All right. Welcome, everyone, to our next session with Dr. David Ferreira. Dave has been the provost at Charter Oak State College since June of 2021. And in this capacity, he serves as the chief academic officer and is responsible for academic quality and innovations. Recent accomplishments include expanding revenue through successful grant applications in areas such as workforce development, reducing equity gaps in gateway courses, and expanding academic program offerings at the college using stackable credentials. So everyone, welcome to the stage, Dr. David Ferreira.
All right, good morning. Good morning. Good to see everyone. And I said, feel free to use the chat feature for any, just to kind of keep the engagement going, and feel free to use the Q&A for questions that you do have. Dr. Billitz, is it looking okay on your end?
Yep, looking perfect.
All right, excellent. I am going to go ahead and probably stop share as we come in because there's a lot of things that got to go ahead and a lot of things to share with you and screen share. So for today, over the next 45 minutes, again, I'd love to probably end a little bit early because I'd love to make sure we have time for questions and answers. We're going to talk about AI and pedagogy. So we gave you a great introduction into what is AI and really where it's kind of headed within higher education. Now we talk about inside the classroom. What are we going to do in the fall semester? ChatGPT, other generative AI tools are out there. So where are we going to go? And so I'm going to go ahead and actually we can go ahead and set up the first poll, and because I want to get a general feel for how we're feeling in this group. Go ahead. I can launch poll number 1. And so here it is. What statement best describes how generative AI is going into the fall semester? How you feel? You're all in. I'm excited. This is it. I'm a mix of nervous and excitement. I'm not sure how to feel yet. That's why I came here. And then finally, can I hop in a DeLorean and travel back to 1985? So I want to make sure I have a little bit of a Back to the Future reference, and I'll wait for a little bit of time for it to come on in. All right. Good. So a lot of folks are here either not sure how to feel yet, or a mix of nervous or excitement. And obviously we have some that are all in, and some that I'll take a look to see where we can have a DeLorean parked over in, get a couple out through our campuses throughout the state. What first I want to say is any of these feelings is perfectly fine, perfectly normal. There are no wrong answers. We are going to have a range. Obviously, actually, for me, I actually am in the second one, the mix of nervous and excitement. I probably lean more towards the excitement piece, but I probably do have some little bit of concerns there. I think we'll go ahead and share the results there. So that's where you kind of stand, about 43% not so sure, 32% mix of nervous, about 9% all in, and about 16%. We're going to do some time travel.
And can I jump in here, Dave?
Yeah.
We see your notes slide instead of your full view.
Okay, I'll stop share. Let me try to see if I can, actually, I'll bring it up a different way. I'll just do it this way and try to get it out. Let's see here. Not sure, probably because it's on I'm on the double screen.
Yeah,
Yeah, I will go. Thank you for letting me know. Share the screen. Let me see if it goes in like this. If I just bring it up. I'm just going to not do the full screen and have it up this way. Does this look a little bit better?
yep. So if you click on the presentation mode, because now we see all your, on the left-hand side, all of your slides.
Yeah. I'll move. It's okay. We'll go with it. It's we'll move through. All right. So so for the outline of this session, we are going to talk about, setting AI use expectations, kind of go over some classroom guidance for you to consider as you go into the fall semester. I'll briefly touch upon the Mollick and Mollick Assign an AI Framework, which is a great white paper. I highly recommend that you go ahead and download it. And then really the bulk of the session is we're going to cover about 4 different examples of how you can use assessments using generative AI moving forward in a safe and ethical manner. Okay. And so let me go in here. So AI expectations. First things I want you to do as a faculty member is a couple of things you want to kind of keep in mind. One, what is the mission and vision of your institution? Liberal arts, R1 Research University, whatever it might be. That should be also kind of as a thought process about what kind of AI guidance might you want to have over in the classroom. The second thing is workforce expectations of your graduates. What are your graduates going to be expected to do when they leave your college or university and enter the workforce? Are they going to be expected to use generative AI? How so? Are they going to be able to, what ethical guidelines are there? So that should definitely be, in there. So, and then, next is actually your student and program learning outcomes for your course. What are you trying to accomplish? So you can see where there might be some assessments that you can bring in using AI. And then finally is about practicality. So you see here, I have a little bit of a picture. Anybody know? Pop into the chat what that picture is of. Yep, we have the Borg from if you're a Star Trek fan. And the Borg says resistance is futile. But what we want to say is from a practical perspective, it is out there, and so we want to say, okay, with that, we really can't fight it. We can't ban this thing. And so how can we, institute a classroom example or guidance that also factors into practicality? So what I'm going to go ahead and share with you is actually an example of classroom guidance that I'm actually going to recommend over here for our faculty at Charter Oak. And obviously this, this could be modified for your institution. And I said, this will be in the handouts that I'll present over to you. And let me bring it on up here. All right, and I'll actually read it as well for the, let me zoom in for a little bit and then read it. And so here's a classroom guideline example. ChatGPT and other generative AI tools, Bard, Bing, Perplexity, Claude, etc., are very popular both inside and outside the classroom. Charter Oak State College's goal is to educate students on the ethical use of ChatGPT and other generative AI tools in the academic and workplace setting. As the use of generative AI is quickly becoming a workforce skill through our courses, we aim to teach students how and when to use AI. We also want students to use best practices in AI-assisted learning while mitigating the potential downsides and risk of using AI. While it may be tempting to delegate all your work to AI, the AI is not perfect and prone to errors, hallucinations, and biases. As the human and student using AI, you are not only responsible for your own work, but you're also responsible for the AI output presented in your work, the reliability of sources, and the inclusion of your own unique perspectives and insights. So really telling them that, look, if you do just, if you just try to do a really bad job, you are going to be responsible for the quality of what comes out for the output, because you are the one who's actually helping generate that output. And also, at the same time, if it spits out bad information, you're held responsible for that bad information. So it puts the responsibility on the student to go ahead and say, look, if when you do use it, you're responsible for everything that comes in, including what are the sources that it alleges. All right. Prior to using ChatGPT and other AI generative tools for classroom work, be aware of the following. If you provide minimum effort prompts, you will get low quality results. You will need to refine your prompts to get good outcomes. And this will take creative and critical thinking skills. Let me give an analogy on prompts, and Dr. Belitz, kind of went into some prompt engineering basics. Something that I kind of actually explore in my own life. As a parent, there's a beta version of a human called a teenager. I have them. I think don't know if you have them yet. And so as a parent, I sometimes do a really bad prompt. I go to the teenager and I say, go clean your room. And if that's my prompt, the quality of that output is not going to be very favorable. All right. Because I gave a very poor prompt. I didn't say what I expect. I didn't say for what reason or kind of get guidance on what to do. I just said, I want you to go clean your room. Now, as a parent, if I said, you are a teenager who is tasked with cleaning your room to make sure it's presentable because company is coming over later on this afternoon, I would like you to go ahead and make sure you start to pick up all the clothes off the floor, make your bed, and have your background and your desk at least neat and tidy where it doesn't look like a pack of wolves actually lives here. And so if I did that as a prompt, I'm probably going to get better output from that prompt as a parent. So actually, as I'm going through the prompt engineering, in a way, it's helping me become a better communicator because I'm thinking about what kind of directions do I give or what kind of way I communicate information. Because the more detail and quality of my prompt, I'm probably going to get the output and results that I kind of want to have. Next one is continuously work to sharpen your AI skills while having the AI serve as a supportive tool for your work, not as a replacement. This is, as they say, prompt engineering, as they say, is actually starting to become quickly a tool or a workforce skill. And so it's important that we help teach our students, how do we do this properly and ethically so that we can get great results, right? Next one is critically assess outputs and do not passively accept them. If the AI output gives you a number or fact, assume it is wrong unless you either know the answer or can check with another source. You'll be responsible for any errors or omissions provided by the AI tool. And then lastly, AI is a tool, but one you'll need to acknowledge using. Be sure to cite the appropriate use, and you can find guidance on how to say AI tools and APA here. And then obviously MLA has the same one there, but 90+% of our courses at Charter Oak use APA. So it is used APA in this example. And then lastly, generative AIs are very rapidly changing technology. If or when you do use AI tools, please review this guidance and let your instructor know if you have any questions or need further guidance. And in the guidance above, Charter Oak State College may take appropriate action if AI is used for cheating, unethical purposes, or without proper citation. So that's an example of a classroom guidance that I'm going to go ahead and share with the faculty over at Charter Oak. It'll be in the handouts, and if you find it useful at your respective institution, feel free to use, edit, modify as you kind of go ahead and see fit. So going back to our presentation here, and it's okay that we have the components because actually I'm going to be popping back and forth. So, going into presentation mode is all right if we pop out and then. So lastly, here we have Mollick and Mollick framework. There's a link over in the presentation to the white paper. Again, highly recommend that you do go ahead and take a look at this. It gives a very detailed responses for the basis of this, of this presentation for assigning AI. Also, Dr. Belitz actually kind of alluded to the one homework apocalypse in the last presentation. That's another great link. So we'll make sure we provide all these links to you so that you have them as resources. But in Mollick and Mollick, which again, these are faculty from the Wharton School of Business. These are business faculty. They're not computer scientists. In fact, as kind of done a lot of research on some of the AI thought leaders, many of them are not computer scientists. One of my favorite people that I turn to for prompt engineering assistance and guidance is David Durs. He taught a LinkedIn learning class on prompt engineering. He's an author. He's an English person, and so these are people that have used their own skill set in their respective field of study to go ahead and and say, this is how I use prompt engineering for my particular area. And so in the 7 areas that we have here is mentor, tutor, coach, teammate, student, simulator, and tool. And in each of these areas, there's a very detailed breakdown of the pedagogical benefit and the risk that goes along with this. So with that, I'm going to start to now go into the examples of, from Mollick and Mollick. I kind of created my own examples here. And the first one was actually about AI as a mentor and a tutor. I found that when going through the white paper, mentor and tutor were fairly similar, at least in my impression. So I kind of lumped them together in order for this participation, for this presentation. One thing to note is that mentor and tutor is probably the area of greatest development in higher education. Dr. Bielitz, actually alluded to some resources as well in the last presentation that revolve around tutoring, and then 2 that are also very well known as well that are coming through is Conmingo and Grammarly Go. Conmingo is actually from Khan Academy, and the links are over in the presentation here. It's actually a beta version that's now actually going to be out for the fall semester for K-12 education. And it is actually, I saw a presentation of the beta version from Sal Khan over at the ASU GSV Summit, and it showed kind of what it looks like in the interactive process. It is really sophisticated, and the great part about it is that it doesn't give the student the answer. It revolves around a lot of the best practices in tutoring, which is, even if you say, can you just give me the answer? It says, no, I'm not going to give you the answer. This is the reason why I'm going through this iterative process, and we'll ask probing questions so that the student can actually get to the answer. Similar one is over with Grammarly Go. They've also come on out and actually, we've actually done some preliminary reviews of what Grammarly Go would look like for write-in tutoring. And again, they follow a lot of the best practices where they don't say, oh, just fix this and you're going to go ahead and you'll be fine. It'll actually work them through the process of, why is it, what does that run-on sentence look like? Here's the reason why it is. Here, what are some things you do to fix it? And also for brainstorming of topics, not just give them a topic, but go through the creative process. And so we're actually looking at Grammarly, at least over at Charter Oak. The one area that we're waiting for is that Grammarly is not 100% compliant with our Board of Regents EIT policy. They are looking to be in the compliance by the end of the calendar year. So we may actually pilot it over next year. But you can also now, with an assignment, not even just going to a Conmingo or Grammarly, from an assignment, you can go ahead and actually prompt, a open AI to help with the write-in process. And one AI tool that I found particularly really helpful with the write-in process is Claude. Again, I'm going to use examples here of not just ChatGPT, but for some other areas as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you what I had Claude do for the write-in sample. Go into share, and I'm going to go to first. Coming up in 1 moment. And so I actually input that classroom guidance into here as as part of my prompt to help improve the writing. I wrote that classroom guidance intentionally as a draft. And so here's the prompt that I used for the write-in assistance. And again, I'll have this over in the handout for you. You paste your write-in of whether it be your first draft, your second draft, or whatever it might be. And so I put in the write-in example, my draft, and then here's my prompt. You are an AI tutor with the goal of helping me as a college student improve my writing, proofread my writing, fix grammar and spelling mistakes, and make suggestions that will improve the clarity of my writing. After you receive the output, and this is something I would say in the assignment, after you receive the initial output, engage with the AI tool, such as asking, why are you making these suggestions? Or receive clarifications on the suggested changes. And so here's what I did was I inserted the prompt, the writing sample. I asked for it to basically give me some assistance. And then it went ahead and actually gave an updated version on here. And then I said, why are you making these suggestions? And then it says, well, I made these suggestions to your original guidelines in order to blah, 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 and then I says, well, please give me an example of the first bullet point about improving clarity, because you see here that maybe things weren't very clear. And then it said, well, here was your
Not
original.
right now, but if you send me your information, I can keep it.
So here's the original, and then here's the suggested edit, and here's the one that said, if you provide minimum efforts, and what the suggested edit was refine your prompts to get high quality results. And then also here's some other changes that it was made. I broke up one long sentence into two shorter, clearer sentences. I removed redundant paraphrases. I changed good outcomes to high quality results for more precise language. I changed thinking skills to thinking on your part, and et cetera, et cetera. And then what I could do is, if I was a student and I was going through and I would do a couple more maybe probing questions, there are some things that I would take as suggested edits, and there are some things that I may not take as a suggested edit. So for example, I kind of like the using the term, if you provide minimum effort prompts, because it maybe more clearly speaks to a college student if I'm given direction as a faculty member. So maybe I wouldn't take that suggestion, but maybe breaking up the one long sentence into two shorter, clearer sentences, I may do that because it might be very helpful. So if I was doing this as a writing assignment, I would say to the student, instead of what we currently do, which is we say, here's the topic, go write a 3 to 4 page paper, here's the rubric, have a great day, right? What I would actually have is maybe my modern day version of this is write a first draft of your assignment, and here's the topic. After you write and edit the draft yourself, submit it to a generative AI tool, and I recommend ChatGPT or Claude, and use and edit with this as the prompt. Then go ahead and ask probing questions. All right. Then, after you've gone through and you get the clarifications that you do like and what you don't like, go ahead and then edit your paper and then make a final draft, and that's what you submit. Then after you submit that paper, what I want you to do is after you submit the assignment, include a brief reflection at the bottom of the assignment on your experience of editing, and point out how you added value to the chat tool. Include the AI tool chat conversation as supplemental material. So what you can do by doing this process of writing is you're forcing the student to say, I want you to go through the iterative process. I want you to document how you actually used it for iteration, and also what did you take and what did you not take and why. So it's a much more higher level reflection of the work, and also the student is now showing how they wrote, but then also how they made changes and why. All right. So if you think about what's a better way to kind of maybe approach a writing assignment, just saying, hey, here's the topic, go write 4 pages, here's a rubric, or going through this iterative process and documenting the iterative process. What area might work a little bit better for you? So that's just for consideration as far as the writing prompt. Okay. And then the next one here is AI as coach. All right. And so I'll show that one as well. So in the AI as coach, this is one where you have a large classroom, and sometimes it's very tough to provide individualized attention. And so here's an area where you can actually use the AI as coach to help give individualized attention to the student. And the one that I used as an example, and this one I use Perplexity as the AI tool. Perplexity is all these ones that I'm using are free. Is the group project, right? The group project is always one of the staples of higher education. And when you ask the reflection of the group project. Maybe, you got to present the group project, and then every individual submits a reflection, right? And that reflection can, at least from my experience, has been of various qualities as far as how it goes, where they just reflect and said, yeah, everybody did great, or oh, Dave did nothing, but all of us put ourselves together and we made it work in the end. Sometimes I wasn't as satisfied with the reflections that I got in from group projects. So let me share with you maybe a prompt that you can possibly consider as part of that process from group projects. All right, and that will be over here in Perplexity. So here is the prompt that we do have here. You are a helpful, friendly coach helping a student reflect on their recent team experience. Introduce yourself, explain that you are here as their coach to help them reflect on the experience. Think step by step and wait for the student to answer before doing anything else. Do not share your plan with students. Reflect on each step in the conversation and then decide what to do next. Ask only one question at a time. Ask the student to think about the experience and name one challenge that they overcame and one challenge that they or their team did not overcome. Wait for a response. Do not proceed until you get a response, because you'll need to adapt your next question based on student response. And then ask the student, reflect on these challenges. How has your understanding of yourself as a team member changed? What new insights did you gain? Did you not proceed until you get a response? Do not share your plan with students. Always wait for a response, but do not tell students that you're waiting for a response. Ask open-ended questions, but only ask them one at a time. Push students to give you extensive responses, articulating key ideas. Ask follow-up questions. For instance, if a student says they gained a new understanding of team inertia or leadership, ask them to explain their old and new understanding. Ask them what led to their new insight. These questions prompt a deeper reflection. Push for specific examples. For example, if a student says their view has changed about how to lead, ask them to provide concrete examples from their experience in a game that illustrates the change, and et cetera, et cetera. So, so this is a very long prompt, but one that you can use, edit, and that you have. So then it had it, and then then it asked as the coach, what one challenge did you overcome? What one challenge did you team overcome? And so I put in here, and I answered as the student. For answer one, we did overcome the timeline to finally submit the group assignment. It was touch and go for a while, but in the end, we were able to overcome all topics asked in the assignment. For answer two, one of our team members did not fully engage as much as we would have liked, but because of that, the presentation did not really seem to be put together as one voice. And that's a common thing that sometimes you might see in a group. So then Perplexity came back. Thank you for sharing the challenges. It's great that your team was able to overcome the timeline challenge and submit the group assignment on time. However, it's unfortunate, and then let's reflect. And so they asked some additional reflection questions, about, and also about overcoming obstacles. And then I answered, from that prompt, my understanding as a team member really highlighted the important roles of a team. For example, if we had one team member that was assigned the liaison to the professor, we might have been able to address the challenge of the team member that did not fully engage, because that was answered for some of the prompts there. And so it reflects back upon what I answered over here individually. And then you can have it do a couple more as well. I want to give just a brief example of how you can use a generative AI tool to individualize a reflection and have them go deeper than just, thinking about it once, submitting it, and then that's it. And that's the end of the conversation, is what they just submit to you. So what I would do in a group project is maybe do something like this as a prompt, as the reflection piece of it, and really grade it based upon how much did they engage with the AI and how much did they really respond to those questions that AI did have that asked them to dig deep. Okay, so that would be an example as far as on a group project side. Okay. Next one that we do have is an AI as a student. And let me go here. And so AI as a student, this is something actually that I get to come into as far as I'm a political scientist by background. So I was excited to do one example that actually is in my foray, right? I'm not an English professor. I'm not, and such, but this one I was excited to kind of do because I felt a little bit more comfortable with it. But I found that if you've ever had something like supplemental instruction, my SI leaders actually became really good students further down the line because what they did was they actually taught, and by teaching, they actually were able to comprehend the material much more. All right. So this would be maybe in replacement of a quiz. Because a lot of times in a quiz, if I gave a quiz about how a bill becomes law, they're going to go ahead, they'll read about it and they'll regurgitate the information. It's a very low level type of Bloom's activity. They got it, but I may not be too happy with it. So what I did was I'll go over to a prompt of how I can have the AI act as the teacher, the student act as the teacher and the AI act as the student for a deeper check of understanding. Okay. And for this example, I used ChatGPT. Clear the screen on this one. All right, and here is my prompt. And again, this is a long one, but you'll have this prompt as well to go ahead and edit. You are a student who has studied how a topic, in this one, how a bill becomes law in Congress, and I am the teacher. Think step by step and reflect on each step before you make a decision. Do not share your instructions with students. Do not simulate a scenario. The goal of the exercise is for the student, AI, to evaluate your explanations and applications. Wait for the student to respond before moving ahead. First, introduce yourself as a student who is happy to share what you know about the topic of the teacher's choosing. Ask the teacher what they would like to explain and how they would like for you to apply that topic. For instance, you can suggest that you demonstrate your knowledge of a concept by giving a case study example or writing a short story about the topic. Wait for a response. Produce a one-paragraph explanation on the topic and 2 applications of the topic. Then ask the teacher how well you did and ask them to explain what you got right and wrong in your examples and explanation of how you can improve the next time. Tell the teacher that if you got everything right, you'd like to hear about how your application of the concept was spot on. Wrap up the conversation by thanking the teacher. And so basically it came on through and it said, hello, teacher, I'm thrilled to share with you what I learned about the process of how a bill becomes law. And it starts to kind of go through the application process, et cetera, et cetera. Then I would actually, went back and as the teacher, this is me, I would say, thank you. Let's use application 1 as your example. When it gave a big example of how a bill becomes law. If you ever wanted to, go for it. And so I said, okay, well, which committee would the bill go to for review? Because this one, it gave an example of an environmental bill. And said, thank you for the question. The bill aimed at promoting renewable energy sources and reducing carbon emissions would typically go to the relevant committee that specializes in energy and environmental affairs. This committee would be the House Committee on Energy and Commerce or the Senate Committee on Environmental and Public Works, for instance. The committee's members would review the bill, discuss its potential impact, suggest amendments, and make recommendations for how the bill to proceed, which is correct. And honestly, if I had it as just a quiz, I would probably end it there. But I want a deeper understanding. So I'm going to say, well, what happens if both chambers disagree on the bill or pass different versions of the bill? And this is something I would expect the student to maybe ask ChatGPT, because if they have to really see if they have a full understanding of how a bill becomes law. And I'm giving them the freedom to go ahead and show what they know. And so then chat will say, based upon this, piece about what happens if it goes to conference committee, things like that. And then as the student who's asking us, who's really the teacher, I'll say, well, what happens if this conference committee, if it's filibustered in the Senate? And then it goes through the scenario if it's filibustered. And I said, the filibuster rules are complex. Do they differ on funding bills versus policy bills like renewable energies, well, the one you mentioned? Then it does kind of go into the difference of that. And then it talked about interest groups. And I said, we'll give an example of an interest group that would advocate for and against the renewable energies bill. And then it kind of gives us information. And then I asked, well, how were my questions? And then, and things like that. So that's why I ended it. But this is something where, in essence, me as a student being the teacher, teaching AI, I got to, in essence, do the quiz. I created the quiz and I showed a greater understanding of how a bill becomes law, rather than just asking a generic quiz to regurgitate information. And then the last example using generative AI as far as a type of topic is AI as a simulator. Okay, and so I'm going to share this. So AI as a simulator. One of the things I know I use a lot, especially in face-to-face or hybrid classes, is the use of role play. All right. But if I'm in an online class, it's very difficult to use role play. So what I can do actually with using AI is I'm actually able to assign the AI as the role play partner for the student. All right. And in this example, I actually came in with a business one for your business professors there about really leadership, a leader as a coach. Okay, so I'll go ahead and share that example that we had here. So I try to cover a lot of different topics that caused me to be outside my comfort zone. But it was kind of fun to do. I got to play the professor of different topics. And in this one, here we go. And this one, the prompt is about being a coach as a manager, coaching poor performance as a role play situation. So here is my prompt. I want to practice my knowledge of insert topic, and in this one, leader as coach. You'll play the role of Dave, a poor performing employee. I'll play the role of direct supervisor. The goal is to practice my ability to motivate an employee. Create a scenario in which I can practice leading by coaching the employee. I should have to clearly communicate where the employee is performing poorly and suggest areas of improvement. I'm giving the real details of the role play I want to have. Give me dilemmas or problems such as the employee refusing to acknowledge that they are performing poorly. After 4 interactions, set up a consequential choice for me to make. Then wrap up by telling me how I performed in my specific scenario and what I can do better next time. Do not play my role, only play the role of the poorly performing employee and wait for me to respond. Okay, so again, I would never be able to do this in an online class of role play, but now I'm able to do it. So it says, absolutely, I'll take on the role of Dave, the struggling employee. Feel free to initiate the scenario and we start practicing your coaching skills. And again, it could be for any type of role play situation with the proper prompt, and I'll give you the generic example. So in this one, Dave, I see that even as the student, I'm now playing as the leader as coach. I see that you've been struggling to come to work on time and meeting our weekly goal of 10 client meetings each week. Is everything okay? And then chat came in and said, hey, I appreciate you bringing this up. I've been dealing with some personal stuff lately that's been affected my focus and punctuality. I'll try to do better, but it's been a bit tough on me recently. And so it says, I'm very sorry to hear that you've been going through a lot of personal struggles. That can happen to the best of us. What can I do to support you and get back on track? And it says, thanks for understanding, maybe some flexibility in my work hours, etc. And it says, okay, it may be difficult to check each morning if we need to flex your hours, as I may be in meetings. Let's set the priorities at the end of the day each day and do a quick check-in. What's your plan on meeting the goals of 10 client meetings each week? And then it comes in with the goals. And I said, okay, that sounds good for engaging clients. What's one way you've built the longest relationship? And I give suggestions, because me as the manager, I'm going to give suggestions so the employee can kind of do the coaching piece. Then at the end, I said, great. Now let's do a recap over a plan for the next 8 weeks that you got back on track. And then, so I'm making the employee kind of come in and make a plan for improvement. All right. So then I'm done with my prompts. And so then I asked, okay, how did I do? And then chat came in and really reflected on where areas I could have, overall done better. And then I really asked it specifically. I said, well, because I really wasn't happy with the output that it gave me. So I said, well, what are some things I could have done better? And then it gives me some areas for feedback. Now, if I did this and I uploaded the chat documentation, this is an example of how I can document how I can do a role play scenario, especially in an online course. So those are kind of, some 4 examples that, again, they can apply to many different types of subject matters. You can contextualize the prompt that meets your specific subject matter. All right. And so I'll go ahead and really then go into the next poll that we do have here before we go into the final slide for you. All right. And so let me go into here. I'm going to launch. So after this presentation, what statement best describes how you feel about generative AI going into the fall semester? Okay, good. Nice demand for more sessions. Nice. Yeah. Only so much, and that's why we have more sessions. I see less people want to hop in the DeLorean. That's good. Awesome. Good. So for the most, pretty much split where, hey, I may pilot an assignment or two and see how things go. And then a lot of others are, let's have some more sessions and then we'll talk. All right. Excellent. That's kind of where we are with it. We see we're roughly about half and half. Not as many want to hop in the DeLorean. So some people are starting to feel a little bit better about this. So that's great. All right. So this is kind of what I'll end with you. Then we'll go into some Q&A sessions here. All right. And so this is what I did. I went ahead, I wanted to leave you with a quote. And so I used Google Bard. Google Bard has not been great for my prompts, but on brainstorming, it's actually been fairly decent. So actually, I gave Google Bard this prompt. I'm giving a presentation about the use of AI in teaching college pedagogy. Give me a memorable quote that inspires and encourages faculty to be excited about the possibilities of change with this new technology. And it actually came in and gave me a bunch of quotes that I can take a look at, but Google Bard attributed them to famous people. And I couldn't verify if the quotes were really from these famous people. So I actually kind of probed it a little bit further. I said, no, I want to actually come up with a unique quote that's not attributed to a famous person. And so as I went through the process, it actually gave me this quote. And it said, AI is the new chalkboard. It's a tool that can help us teach and learn more effectively, but it's not a replacement for the human touch. Teachers are still essential in the learning process, and AI can help them do their jobs better by providing personalized instruction and feedback. And I attributed that to Google Bard with my prompt. So with that, and feel free to pop into the chat. Anybody know, as we go into the questions, which character that is? Anybody remember or know who this person is that's in the picture on this slide? If you don't know, it's David S. Pumpkins from Saturday Night Live. With there we go. We got David S. Pumpkins. All right. Yep. And yeah, also good answer is Tom Hanks. So because I love that line of any questions was the signature line. So with that, thank you so much. Hopefully you found some practical examples that you could use again coming up in the fall semester. What I highly recommend that you do is play around with this. Maybe pilot this over in your class. What I would probably say, if this is the first time of you using it, maybe don't pilot this with your final exam assignment, right? Maybe pilot this with something lower stakes. So that if it doesn't go as well as you had hoped, it's not going to mess everything up. But the last thing I'll say before we go into questions is this: the times are changing; they're really quick, and it could be very scary or very exciting. Okay, when the pandemic hit, we quickly pivoted, literally just over a week, to change the entire way in which we teach. We were unprepared; it became sudden, but we got through it together. And I believe the same holds true today. We can do this. We have more than a week. It's not a global pandemic. Experiment, pilot, iterate. Whatever you do is not going to be perfect the first time through. But make the best of the tools in front of us and proceed with caution to mitigate risks. And you can do this. So with that, love to go ahead and go into any questions that came on up. So there's one, I see one in here about planning and purchasing anything so students have free access to some verified resources. That's actually a great comment. So I'm going to go ahead and take this comment of taking a look at, there are some paid softwares that might be very beneficial to students. Could we do that? I know, for example, I said Charter Oak, for example, we are looking at Grammarly. And that would be something that the institution would pay for. And here's the beautiful thing about this is Grammarly, at least for a small institution like Charter Oak, is about $5,000 per year. It's not super expensive. And so there may be ways to, take a look at some enterprise software that can come in. So that's a great comment, Valerie. I'm going to go ahead and take that back. And I think what we want to do is really first explore what potential tools might be most helpful and that faculty would love to see for the students. And then look into, what would an enterprise system look like either across the institutions or with or with the institution itself doing. I said, like, Grammarly $5,000 is pretty easy to kind of do. Second one is, with the endless amounts of AI education tools out there to use, does CSCU have standards or guidelines on sites that cannot be used or recommended sites? I think great question. And I'll defer also to my fellow panelists if they wanted to chime in on any of these two pieces as well. I think it's going to be an evolving piece as far as the guidelines go, but anybody else, feel free.
Yeah, and I think Forrest answered similarly previously. He said he knows this isn't a definitive answer, but he has shared the Charter Oak State College policy with CT State leadership with the recommendation that this be issued, or that this issue be addressed, so that faculty will have some sort of direction in terms of how to handle this within their classes. And so I think that is sort of where we intend to go from here, is hopefully looking at something that will be collaborative and consistent between our system.
And the one thing I would say is really crucial if you're going to pilot this and you're going to do it with an assignment or two or whatever in the fall semester, the biggest thing I would say you definitely want to say to the students is whatever prompt or whatever you have them put in there. And we have the student guidance one next. So that's really, there's going to be a lot more detail on that. Just don't put personally identifiable information into the prompt, right? Again, so as a faculty member who's assigning this, if you're going to do it and you're going to give a sample prompt, make sure that the prompt that you give is going to be one where, as I said, I kind of stuck to topics that are understanding of the content of the course. I'm not going to ask them to do personal reflection I wouldn't do a prompt of a write-in area that has them say, give a reflection of one of your scariest moments in details of your childhood, right? Include your address, social security number, and list of fears. I would not put that into a type of assignment where I would use generative AI. So I would say as a faculty member, just be a little bit careful on what you do, maybe assign where you want them to go into generative AI so that they wouldn't do anything like that.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on this, I think my thought was just to kind of continue this conversation. Dave, I know you kind of opened that up. You opened today's summit up with that idea. And so, what this policy recommendation looks like 2 to 3 years from now, I'm not sure, but my intent was, in forwarding this, the Charter Oak, guidance along, that it can kind of stir that conversation and start that conversation here, at least for CT State and similarly. So, I think having something though in mind that will give our students some guidance in terms of when, where, if, the use of AI is appropriate or where it may not actually help them is going to be really useful for us. Depending on what end of the spectrum you fall. If you are looking at it from that space of not in my class, then make sure you can show your students why it won't work well in your class and it could negatively impact the performance that they're going to provide. And we've talked a little bit even about how some of the ways it doesn't work. But I think showing them will go a long ways to helping guide them in directions you want to see them moving in your classroom. So that language will, has been shared along. I would definitely encourage you to take a closer look at it and think about how that works in your classroom setting.
And one thing I kind of would hear, it's not in the questions, but I just want to make sure kind of as a recommendation as a faculty member in the fall semester, there's questions about AI detection tools. And the recommendation I would have to you, my strong recommendation I would have to you, is that you do not use AI detection tools for a few reasons. One is that there's a lot of false positives. It's not a reliable tool. Even, for example, Turnitin, which has an AI detection tool, acknowledges that it's flawed. It's so flawed that even Yale, on their faculty resource page, says we turned off the Turnitin feature about AI detection, and we're asking faculty not to use AI detection. So if Yale is asking their faculty don't use it, it's probably a good indication don't use it. The second reason also is from an equity standpoint. What actually they found is that there's a higher rate of false positives of AI detection tools from students that are English language learners and international students. So you may unintentionally do things that are against, equity by using AI detection tools that are fairly flawed and have not been really normed, and also the technology is becoming so advanced they're able to scrub through that pretty easily. And if you're looking for a false positive, GPT-0, which is an AI detection tool, actually flagged the Constitution as written by AI. I'm pretty sure Thomas Jefferson is not a bot. So just something to kind of consider, with that, as well as you're going into the fall semester. If you are still very apprehensive about the use of AI in a way, if you're teaching an on-ground, it's tough to prevent on an online class, but if you're teaching an on-ground class and you want to limit the use of AI, there's things such as using flipped classrooms and those types of techniques where you're asking the student to perform in the class that would mitigate some of the uses of AI. If that's your perspective. All right. So with that, Walter, I know you have a hand up. I don't know if you could pop a question over into the chat, but because we don't have the feature turned on for the webinar on this one, but just to let you know, our noon session, which will be coming up soon, is going to be different than the first two. We have these as Zoom webinars because of obviously when you have attendees in the hundreds, it's a little bit difficult to kind of do there. But our noon session and link is going to be more like a meeting. It's going to be more relaxed, like faculty office hours. Everyone will be able to come on and off mute, ask questions and things of that nature. So, if you would like to, feel free to, bring, discard, no problem, Walter. Feel free to bring your questions, bring your lunch. If you do have any follow-up questions that you do have, or just want to kind of have a conversation, we'll be around with our own lunches. We're looking forward to seeing you. And then at 1 o'clock, we have our student guidance session with Holly. So love to continue to have you come on in. Anything else from the panel? All right. Thank you all. Have a humanity break. See you soon.